Welcome to Bhakti-sastri class. We chant the Mangalakshmi prayers. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrachatam Sanagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishadhan Tansha Namo Om Vishwapadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratashe He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radha Vrindavaneshwari Krishamano Sute Devi Purnamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarorvyasya Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namostate Vyasa Vishana Buddhe Pullarabindayatapatra येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वलितो गानमयप्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणिये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः. So we are studying chapter 9 of Bhagavad-gita as it is, the most confidential knowledge. In the previous class, we discussed first 8 verses. And the topic that's going on is the Lord's connection to the material world, how it is simultaneously connected and disconnected, right? So that's what we're trying to understand. So the Lord is connected because everything comes from Him, everything happens under His control. Everything functions as per His order, and everything depends upon Him. But at the same time, we understand that He's aloof from all material stuff because He doesn't do it personally. It's His energies that carry out the function, right? So we told you that in these verses, these are the topics that are discussed in 9.4 to 6. It's explained how Krishna maintains the material world through his energies. In 9.7 and 8, it's explained how Krishna creates and destroys the material world through his energies. In 9.9, all these activities, they do not bind Krishna. And in 9.10, Krishna remains neutral, right? All this is possible because of Krishna's Achintya Shakti, inconceivable potency. Understanding this means understanding one of the opulences of Krishna. All right. So we will now look at verse number 9. न क्षामां दानि कर्माणि निबध्नन्ति धनञ्जय उदासीनवत् आसीनम् asaktam teshu karmasu. O Dhananjaya, all this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached from all these material activities, seated as though neutral. Let's read the purport and then we will do some exercise. Bhaiji Mataji, let's read the purport.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Perfect. One should not think in this connection that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no engagement. In a spiritual world, he is always engaged. In the Brahma Samhita 5.6, it is stated, Atma Ramasya Tasyasti Prakritaya Na Samagamaha. He is always involved in his eternal blissful spiritual activities, but he has nothing to do with these material activities. Material activities are being carried on by his different potencies. The Lord is always neutral in the material activities of the creative world. This neutrality is mentioned here with the word Udasinavad. Although he has control over every minute detail of the material activities, he is sitting as if neutral. The example can be given of a high court judge sitting on his bench. By his order, so many things are happening. Someone is being hanged, someone is being put into jail, someone is awarded a huge amount of wealth, but still he is neutral. He has nothing to do with all that gain and loss. Similarly, the Lord is always neutral, although he has his hand in every sphere of activity. In the Vedanta Sutra 2.1.34, it is stated by Samya Naignye now, he is not situated in the dualities of this material world. He is transcendental to these dualities, nor is he attached to the creation and annihilation of this material world. The living entities take their different forms in the various species of life according to their past deeds, and the Lord doesn't interfere with them. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So the Lord is Udasin. Udasin means neutral. He doesn't interfere. He lets them do what they like. Uh, and the reactions come to the living entity as per one's actions given by the material nature. So we'll do an exercise here. It's a study exercise, Gita study exercise. You can take 5 minutes to do this, 5 to 6 minutes. Look at the word Dhananjaya. There's this word coming in this verse 9.9, Dhananjaya. So first question, whose name it is? Second, what does it mean? Where all in Gita does this word come? Can you draw any similarity in the message in all the verses having this word? So you can take 5 to 6 minutes to do this personally. Are you done? Yeah. So the first question answer is this name has been used for Arjuna, Dhananjaya. The meaning of this name is conqueror of wealth,
Riches.
riches or wealth. Where all in Gita does this word come? It comes
Seven
in
point
it
two
comes
point
in many
forty eight.
verses. It comes in many verses. 2.48, 2.49, 4.41, 1.15,
7.7.
7.7, 9.9, 11.14, 12.9, 8.29, 18.29, 18.72, which means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times in Gita does this name come. Right. So when you look at the verses where all this name comes, do you find some similarity upon between those verses? Yes. We find some similarity. How? Well, you can put these verses in which this name comes into categories or two types. One is of type 1, where this word has come or name has come. 2.48, 49, 4.41, 9.9, 18.29, 18.72. And there's another type, 1.15, 7.7, 11.14, 12.9. So what similarity do we get in these verses?
Type
If you
1,
look,
Lord Krishna addresses to Arjuna, Prabhu, and type 2, Sanjay addresses to Dhritarashtra
no,
about Dhananjaya.
that's not the similarity you're looking for. In type 1, what is the message Krishna giving to Arjuna using this name?
Nibadnanti, always there is.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in type 1, Krishna is telling Arjuna to work without detachment. Means
Work
Nishkam,
with detachment.
work without attachment, work with detachment, Nishkam Karma Yoga. So he's whenever he uses any name for Arjuna, he tries to invoke some kind of a feeling, some kind of a experience within Arjuna. So here he is trying to remind him that the way you had won over riches for your brother, for the Rashtriya Yagya, for Yudhishthira Maharaj, and you had won all these wealth and you had given it to him. Similarly, here you work with detachment, you fight the battle, you fight it for me. Don't be attached to the result and do it the way selflessly you fought for your brother. Similarly, here you fight for me. That's what he's trying to say in type 1.
Yes, correct. Thank you. So what is Lord doing here? Um, as Mataji said, every time Krishna uses a name of Arjuna, he wants to give a certain message to Arjuna, specific message to Arjuna. So Krishna is wanting to teach Arjuna the spirit of Nishkama Karma, working in the spirit of detachment. And Krishna also works in that spirit. So, giving an example of how Arjuna himself had worked in that spirit in the past, Krishna is trying to make it easy for Arjuna. That Arjuna, you know how to work in that spirit. In the performance of Rajsuya sacrifice, Yudhishthira Maharaj wanted a lot of riches or wealth. You worked very hard. You went in the north direction. You conquered so much of wealth. And you brought all that wealth and handed over to Yudhishthira Maharaj without taking a penny for yourself. So that is the spirit of working with detachment. So just like you did that for Yudhishthir, you act in the same manner for my sake or for the cause of dharma or liberation. So wherever you see that in these verses, the spirit of Nishkama karma is pointed out. Krishna has used the name Dhananjaya. It has correlation with that. The name and the activity and the spirit. Fine. And in another type, which is type 2, Krishna is using that name to inspire or encourage Arjuna that you are a conqueror, you are a winner, you can do it. You are Dhananjaya, just like you conquered wealth. You can also be a conqueror here. Conquer over your enemies, conquer over your inner vices, conquer over your weaknesses, right? All that. So this is how Krishna does. Fine. Next verse. मयाध्यक्षेण प्रकृतिः सूयते सचराचरम् हेतुनानेन कौन्तेय जगद्विपरिवर्तते. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Purport. Alok Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandavat. It is clearly stated here that the Supreme Lord, although aloof from all activities of the material world, remains the Supreme Director. The Supreme Lord is the Supreme Will and the background of this material manifestation. But the management is being conducted by material nature. Krishna also states in Bhagavad-gita that of all the living entities in different forms and species, I am the Father. The Father gives seed to the womb of the mother for the child, and similarly, the Supreme Lord, by his mere glance, injects all the living entities into the womb of material nature, and they comes out in their different forms and species according to their last desires and activities. All these living entities, although born under the glance of the Supreme Lord, take their different bodies according to their past deeds and desires. So the Lord is not directly attached to this material creation. He simply glances over material nature. Material nature is thus activated and everything is created immediately. Because he glances over material nature, there is undoubtedly activity on the part of the Supreme Lord, but he has nothing to do with the manifestation of material world directly. This example is given in the Smriti. When there is a fragrant flower before someone, the fragrance is touched by the smelling power of the person. Yet the smelling and the flower are detached from one another. There is a similar connection between the material world and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, he has nothing to do with the material word, but he creates by his glance and ordains in summary material nature without the supreme superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot do anything. Yet the Supreme Personality is detached from all material activities. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Everything happens under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. Maya Adhyakshena Prakritihi. Everything, nothing is happening accidentally. Right? This is the theistic school of thought. Everything is being controlled by the Supreme Lord. He is the cause, the supreme cause. But the atheistic scientists, they say no, there's something else which is the supreme cause, right? So they come up with theories like the Big Bang theory, the grand universe theory, all that stuff. Hmm. String theory, yes. So, what makes more sense? Brahmaji says, Ishvara Paramah Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda. That Govinda, Lord Govinda, is Sarva Karana Karanam, who is the cause of all causes. And Mr. Stephen Hawking says, a point is Sarva Karana. Some point. From that point, everything started. What makes more sense? Definitely that a supreme person is the cause of all causes, not that a point is the cause of all causes. So, likewise, many such theories are there. And these two books are very nice books. Anyone wants to know how these theories are so fallacious, you can read these two books, Cosmology on Trial and Stephen Hawking on Trial. Very nice books, very nicely researched upon and presented with scientific and logical arguments, how these theories are not really sound, and they are full of flaws, right? So these two books are written by a devotee, Prabhupada disciple. Very excellent books. Anyone interested in this topic can read it. All right. Next, we have worshippers and non-worshippers, different types. Arjuna again puts forth this query or doubt. If you are the supreme, if everything is controlled by you, why don't people all surrender to you? Why they go to different places or different personalities? Why not they all respect you? It's the most glorious personality. So then the Lord answers that in the verse 9.11. Avajananti mam mulaha. Fools don't know. Fools do not know me. Avajananti mam mula manushring tanumashritam parang bhavamajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that we purport. Rupanshi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. From the other explanation of the previous verses in this chapter, it is clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing like a human being, is not a common man. The personality of Godhead, who conduct the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the complete cosmic manifestation, cannot be a human being. Yet there are many foolish men who consider Krishna to be merely a powerful man and nothing more. Actually, he is the original Supreme Personality, as is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Ishwaraha Param Krishna, he is the Supreme Lord. There are many Ishvara, controller, and one appears greater than another. In the ordinary management of affairs in the material world, we find some official or director, and above him there is a secretary, and above him a minister, and above him a president. Each of them is a controller, but one is controlled by another. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that Krishna is the supreme controller. There are many controllers undoubtedly, both in the material and spiritual world. But Krishna is the supreme controller. Ishvaraha Param Krishna, and his body is Sachidanand, non-material. Material bodies cannot perform the wonderful act described in the previous verses. His body is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. Although he is not a common man, the foolish deride him and consider him to be a man. His body is called here Manusim because he is acting like a man, a friend of Arjuna's politician involved in the battle of Kurukshetra. In so many ways, he is acting like an ordinary man, but actually, his body is Satchit Anand Vigraha, eternal bliss and knowledge absolute. This is confirmed in the Vedic language. Satchit Anand Rupaya Krishnaya. I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, who is the eternal blissful form of knowledge. Gopala Tapani Upanishad 1.1. There are other descriptions in the Vedic language also. Tam Ekam Govindam. You are Govinda, the pleasure of the senses and the cows. Satchit Anand Vigraham, and your form is transcendental, full of knowledge, bliss, and eternality. Gopala Tapani Upanishad 1.35. Despite the transcendental qualities of Lord Krishna's body, its full bliss and knowledge, there are many so-called scholars and commentators of Bhagavad-gita who deride Krishna as an ordinary man. The scholar may be born an extraordinary man due to his previous good work, but this conception of Sri Krishna is due to a poor fund of knowledge. Therefore, he is called Muddaha. For only foolish person consider Krishna to be an ordinary human being. The foolish consider Krishna an ordinary human being because they do not know the confidential activities of the Supreme Lord and his different energies. They do not know that Krishna's body is a symbol of complete knowledge and bliss, that he is the proprietor of everything that be and that he can award liberation to anyone. Because they do not know that Krishna has so many transcendental qualifications, they deride him. Nor do they know that the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this material world is a manifestation of his internal energy. He is the master of material energy. As has been explained in several places, Mam Maya Durataya, He claims that the material energy, although very powerful, is under his control, and whoever surrender unto him can get out of the control of his material energy. If a soul surrendered to Krishna can get out of the influence of material energy, then how can the Supreme Lord, who conduct the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the whole cosmic nature, have a material body like us? So this conception of Krishna is complete foolishness. Foolish person, however, cannot conceive that the personality of Godhead Krishna, appearing just like an ordinary man, can be the controller of all the atoms and of the gigantic manifestation of the universal form. The biggest and the minutest are beyond their conception. So they cannot imagine that a form like that of a human being can simultaneously control the infinite and the minute. Actually, although he is controlling the infinite and the finite, he is apart from all his manifestation. It is clearly stated concerning his yogam Ishwaram, his inconceivable transcendental energy, and that he can control the infinite and finite simultaneously, and that he can remain aloof from them. Although the foolish cannot imagine how Krishna, who appears just like a human being, can control the infinite and the finite, those who are pure devotees accept this, for they know that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Therefore, they completely surrender unto him and engage in Krishna consciousness devotional service of the Lord. There are many controversies between the impersonalist and the personalist about the Lord appearance as a human being. But if we consult Bhagavad-gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, the authoritative text for understanding the science of Krishna, then we can understand that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. He is not an ordinary man, although he appeared on the earth as an ordinary human. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, when the sages headed by Sankhya inquired about the activities of Krishna, they said, Kartvam kila karmani saharamena keshvaha ati martyani bhagavan guddha kapata manushaha. Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with Balram, played like human being, and so masked, he performed many superhuman acts. Bhagavad-gita 1.1.20. The Lord appearance as a man bewildered the foolish. No human being could perform the wonderful act that Krishna performed while he was present on this earth. When Krishna appeared before his father and mother, Vasudeva and Devaki, he appeared with 4 hands. But after the prayer of the parents, he transformed himself into an ordinary child. As stated in the Bhagavatam 10.3.46, Bhabuva Prakrita Shishuha. He became just like an ordinary child, an ordinary human being. Now here again it is indicated that the Lord's appearance as an ordinary human being is one of the features of his transcendental body. In the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, also it is stated that Arjuna prayed to see Krishna's form of 4 hands, Teneva Rupen Chatur Bhujena. After revealing this form, Krishna, when petitioned by Arjuna, again assumed his original human form like Manusham Rupam. These different features of the Supreme Lord are certainly not those of an ordinary human being. Some of those who deride Krishna and those who are infected with Mayavadi philosophy thought of the following verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam 3.29.21 to prove that Krishna is just an ordinary man. Aham sarveshu bhuteshu bhutat mavash sthita sada. The Supreme is present in every living entity. We should better take note of this particular verse from the Vaishnavacharyas like Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur instead of following the interpretation of unauthorized person who deride Krishna. Jiva Goswami, commenting on this verse, say that Krishna, in his plenary expansion as Paramatma, is situated in the moving and the non-moving entities as a super soul. So any neophyte devotee who simply gives his attention to the Archamurti, the form of the Supreme Lord in the temple, and does not respect other living entities is uselessly worshipping the form of the Lord in the temple. There are 3 kinds of devotees of the Lord, and the neophyte is in the lower stage. The neophyte devotees give more attention to the deity in the temple than to other devotees. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wants that this sort of mentality should be corrected. A devotee should see that because Krishna is present in everyone's heart as Paramatma, everybody is the embodiment or the temple of the Supreme Lord. So as one offers respect to the temple of the Lord, he should similarly properly respect each and every body in which Paramatma dwells. Everyone should therefore be given proper respect and should not be neglected. There are also many impersonalists who deride temple worship. They say that since God is everywhere, why should one restrict himself to temple worship? But if God is everywhere, is he not in the temple or in the deity? Although the personalist and impersonalist will fight with one another perpetually, a perfect devotee in Krishna consciousness knows that although Krishna is the supreme personality, he is all pervading, as confirmed in the Brahm Samhita. Although his personal abode is Golok Vrindavan, and he is always staying there by his different manifestations of energy and by his plenary expansion. He is present everywhere in all parts of the material and spiritual creation. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Pretty long purport. That's Prabhupada's style. Whenever he has to refute Mayavad, impersonalism, he'll give a very detailed explanation, right? So, avajananti mama mudaha. Fools, they do not understand me. Manushim tanumashritam. Manushim tanumashritam means, Manushim means humanly, Tanu means body, Ashrita means having taken shelter of. So he's explaining that some foolish people think that when God comes, he becomes a not ordinary human being, or he takes shelter of a human body. That's how people generally think, and they are foolish. They think God to be ordinary man. Param bhavam ajananto. They do not know his transcendental nature, right? That he's the supreme controller. And this foolishness or mistake can be done by anyone. Even great personalities can be bewildered and may not understand Krishna's position as the Supreme Lord. When Krishna came as a young boy in Vrindavan, even Brahma did not understand Krishna as Supreme Lord. Brahma thought, such a small, tiny boy, coward boy, how can he be God? He is not God, right? So even great personalities get bewildered. There is this pastime in Ramayana, how Lord Shiva's wife, she got bewildered looking at Lord Ramachandra's fasting. And she thought, Lord Ram is an ordinary man. He cannot be the supreme personality of God. He is so pitiably lamenting for Sita. How can God lament so much for his wife? Not possible. So she thought Lord Ramachandra is not God. He is ordinary human. Like that, even great personalities. Indra got bewildered. Though Krishna lifted Govardhan hill and he shattered the pride of Indra. The same Krishna, when he grew up, went to Dwarka and then reached the heavens with his wife Satyabhama. Satyabhama requested Krishna or asked Krishna that, get me this Parijata plant. I want to take it and put it in my garden in Dwarka. Krishna took that plant and Indra was so furious. How can you steal something which belongs to me? Indra did not understand that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, everything belongs to him. Again, he forgot it, right? So, Krishna's bewildering potency is so strong that everyone, even if they are very learned, they start thinking I was an ordinary human. Fine. So, Prabhupada says to accept man, to accept God as a man, and to accept man as God is rascaldom. Right? And then he says, suppose you say, I don't believe in God. Who has given you the power to say this? Therefore, an atheist must be a first-class foolish man. So what happens to those who disrespect Krishna because of their ignorance or because of being deluded by Krishna's illusory potency? Krishna explains in the next verse. What happens to them? Moga asha moga karmano moga jnana vichetasaha rakshasim asurim chaiva prakritim mohinim shitaha. Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demonic and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, Their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. So if you are a karmi and you don't accept Krishna as a supreme person, your efforts in getting the fruits of your karma will be failure. Then if you are a jnani, you want to attain liberation, you will fail in that if you don't accept Krishna as supreme personality. If you are a devotee and you don't accept Krishna as supreme personality of God as a person, then you will fail to go back home back to God. Everyone fails if they don't accept Krishna as a person or supreme personality. If they disrespect Krishna. Okay. Let's read that. Perfect. I need Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Rangatana. There are many devotees who assume themselves to be in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, but at heart do not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, as the absolute truth. For them, the fruit of devotional service, going back to Godhead, will never be tasted. Similarly, those who are engaged in fruitive pious activities and who are ultimately hoping to be liberated from this material entanglement will never be successful either, because they deride the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. In other words, persons who mock Krishna are to be understood to be demoniac or atheistic. As described in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, such demoniac miscreants never surrender to Krishna. Therefore, their mental speculations to arrive at the absolute truth bring them to the false conclusion that the ordinary living entity and Krishna are one and the same. With such a false conviction, they think that the body of any human being is now simply covered by material nature, and that as soon as one is liberated from this material body, there is no difference between God and himself. This attempt to become one with Krishna will be baffled because of delusion. Such atheistic and demoniac cultivation of spiritual knowledge is always futile. That is the indication of this verse. For such persons, cultivation of knowledge in the Vedic literature, like the Vedanta Sutra and the Upanishads, is always baffled. It is a great offense, therefore, to consider Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to be an ordinary man. Those who do so are certainly deluded because they cannot understand the eternal form of Krishna. Brihad Vishnu Smriti clearly states, Yo veti bhautikam deham Krishnasya paramatmanah sa sarvanad bahiskarya shrota smarta vidatanah mukham tasva balokyapi sachelam snanam acharet. One who considers the body of Krishna to be material should be driven out from all rituals and activities of the Shruti and the Smriti. If one by chance sees his face, one should at once take bath in the Ganges to rid himself of infection. People jeer at Krishna because they are envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Their destiny is certainly to take birth after birth in the species of atheistic and demoniac life. Perpetually, their real knowledge will remain under delusion, and gradually they will regress to the darkest region of creation. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Next verse. Mahatmanastu mam partha devim prakritim ashritaha bhajanti ananya manaso gyatva bhutadimapyayam. Now Krishna is talking about totally opposite category of personalities. Those are pure devotees of Krishna. So he says, O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. original and inexhaustible. So here again the word Ananya Manasaha, Ananya has come. Ananya means unalloyed, pure devotional service. Krishna is calling them as Mahatma. Why they are Mahatma? Because they have taken shelter of my divine energy. Mahatma Anastumam Parta Devim Prakritim Ashritaha. Because they have taken shelter of my divine energy, everything they do is a divine act. Let's read the purport. Nagarajan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. In this verse, the description of the Mahatma is clearly given. The first sign of Mahatma is that he is already situated in the divine nature. He is not under the control of material nature. And how is this affected? That is explained in the 7th chapter. One who surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, at once becomes freed from the control of material nature. That is the qualification. One can become free from the control of material nature as soon as he surrenders his soul to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the preliminary formula. Being marginal potency, as soon as the living entity is freed from the control of material nature, he is put under the guidance of the spiritual nature. The guidance of spiritual nature is called Daivi Prakriti, divine nature. So when one is promoted in that way by surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one attains to the stage of Great Soul Mahatma. The Mahatma does not divert his attention to anything outside Krishna because he knows perfectly well that Krishna is the original Supreme Person, the cause of all causes. There is no doubt about it. Such a Mahatma or great soul develops through association with other Mahatmas, pure devotees. Pure devotees are not even attracted by Krishna's other features, such as the four-armed Mahavishnu. They are simply attracted by the two-armed form of Krishna. They are not attracted to other features of Krishna, nor are they concerned with any form of the demigod or of a human being. They meditate only upon Krishna in Krishna consciousness. They are always engaged in the unswearing service of the Lord in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So a Mahatma becomes a Mahatma because of association with other Mahatmas. Right? That's the way to become a great soul, that you associate with other great souls. One becomes a pure devotee by associating with other pure devotees. And what are the activities of such a pure devotee of Krishna? It's given in 14th verse. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridhavrataha namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. These are the qualities of such a Mahatma and the activities also. Shamala Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. The Mahatma cannot be manufactured by rubber stamping an ordinary man. His symptoms are described here. A Mahatma is always engaged in chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna. The personality of Godhead, he has no other business. He is always engaged in the glorification of the Lord. In other words, he is not an impersonalist. When the question of glorification is there, one has to glorify the Supreme Lord, praising his holy name, his eternal form, his transcendental qualities, and his uncommon pastimes. One has to glorify all these things. Therefore, a Mahatma is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who is attached to the impersonal features of the Supreme Lord, the Brahma Jyotir, is not described as Mahatma in the Bhagavad-gita. He is described in a different way in the next verse. The Mahatma is always engaged in different activities of devotional service. As described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing and chanting about Vishnu, not a demigod or human being. That is devotion. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, and remembering him, such a Mahatma as firm determination to achieve at the ultimate end the association of the Supreme Lord in any one of the five transcendental rasas. To achieve that success, he engages all activities, mental, bodily, and vocal, everything in the service of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. That is called full Krishna consciousness. In devotional service, there are certain activities which are called determined, such as fasting on certain days, like the 11th day of the moon, Ekadashi, and on the appearance day of the Lord. All these rules and regulations are offered by the great acharyas for those who are actually interested in getting admission into the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the transcendental world. The Mahatmas, great souls, strictly observe all these rules and regulations, and therefore they are sure, sure to achieve the desired result. As described in the second verse of this chapter, not only in this devotional service easy, but it can be performed in a happy mood. One does not need to undergo any severe penance and austerity. He can live this life in devotional service, guided by an expert spiritual master, and in any position, either as a householder or a sannyasi or a brahmachari. In any position and anywhere in the world, he can perform this devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus become actually Mahatma, a great soul. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhupada talks about rubber-stamped Mahatmas, right? An ordinary man cannot be called Mahatma just because that person has done something extraordinarily. Only if one is a pure devotee of Krishna can be called Mahatma. Why he uses this rubber stamping word? Because, in our country, some particular great personality, materially great personality, or political activist,
Gandhi.
national leader,
Harijan.
Gandhiji,
Gandhi.
Harijan.
was entitled as Mahatma. So Prabhupada is saying just because you give the someone title of Mahatma, that doesn't become a Mahatma. Like regarding Gandhiji, we have a very historic letter by Srila Prabhupada to Gandhiji, which he wrote on December 7, 1947, right? Just after the independence happened. And let's read that letter. Very interesting letter Prabhupada wrote. Prabhupada has written to him many times, and this is one of those letters. Neha Mataji, let's read.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dear friend Mahatma Ji, please accept my respectful namaskar. I am your unknown friend, but I had to write to you at times and again, although you never cared to reply them. I sent you my papers back to Godhead, but your secretaries told me that you have very little time to read the letters and much less for reading the magazines. I asked for an interview with you, but your busy secretaries never cared to reply this. Anyway, as I am your very old friend, although unknown to you, I am writing to you in order to bring you to the rightful position deserved by you. As a sincere friend, I must not deviate from my duty towards a friend like your good self. I tell you, as a sincere friend, that you must immediately retire from active politics if you do not desire to die an inglorious death. You have 125 years to live as you have desired to live, but if you die an inglorious death, it is no worth.
Continue.
The honor and prestige that you have obtained during the course of your present lifetime were not possible to be obtained by anyone else within the living memory. But you must know that all these honors and prestiges were false inasmuch as they were created by the illusory energy of Godhead called the Maya. I would only request you to retire from politics at least for a month only and let us have discussion on the Bhagavad-gita. I am sure thereby that you shall get a new light from the result of such discussions, not only for your benefit, but for the benefit of the world at large, as I know that you are sincere, honest, and a moralist. Awaiting your early reply with interest. Yours sincerely, Abhay Charan Day.
Prabhupada wrote to him. Prabhupada never received a reply back. And we know that after some time, Gandhi died a very inglorious death. He was shot, isn't it? So if you go to New Delhi, there is a memorial built in the name of Gandhiji, and there you find his samadhi. And in his samadhi, at the bottom of his samadhi, you see that the name of Lord Ramchandra is inscribed, Hey Ram. People say that when he left his body, he took the name of Lord Ramachandra. He said, Hey Ram, right? However, we know from Bhagavad-gita that if you don't practice remembering Krishna or Ramachandra throughout your life, you won't remember Krishna or Lord Ramachandra at the end of your life. Right? Yam yam vapi smaran bhava. And whatever you remember at the end, that will be your next destination. So how could Gandhiji was so politically involved? Remember Ramachandra at the end of his life. Is it possible? It's not possible. Right? However, they say so. So, as per Gita's teachings, for one to remember God at the final moment, one must practice remembering Him throughout one's life. So there was an article in newspaper in Economic Times in 2006, January, where an interview was published. Gandhiji was shot dead by Nathuram Godse, and when he was shot, his brother, Nathuram Godse's brother, Gopal Godse, was standing just next to him. So Gopal Godse said that he, as well as Gandhiji's personal assistant, Venkat Kalyanam, said that Gandhiji did not say Hera when he died. That was not the last words that came out of his mouth. Right? They both were witness to his assassination. So why did then this thing came up? Because that time there was a lot of friction between the Hindu community and the Muslim community, and Gandhi was supposedly a promoter of both. He was in favor of both. Even he was in favor of Muslims and he was also in favor of Hindus. So just to tell the world that Gandhi was actually biased towards Hindus or more inclined towards Hindus, this was a false, propaganda made that at the time of his death, he said, Hey Ram. He did not say Allah. So that's proven. Gandhi is in favor of Hindus. He is not in favor of Muslims. But actually, he did not say Hey Ram. So Gita makes it very clear to understand that one can become Mahatma or one can remember the Lord only by practicing throughout one's life, not by rubber stamping. Next verse. Jnana chapyanye yajanto mamupasate ekatvena pritatvena bahuda vishvatomkham. Others who engage in sacrifice by the cultivation of knowledge worship the Supreme Lord as the one without a second, as diverse in many, and in the universal form. Purport. Uma Mataji.
Krishna Prabhu Dandavat Pranam. This verse is a summary of the previous verses. The Lord tells Arjuna that those who are purely in Krishna consciousness and do not know anything other than Krishna are called Mahatma. Yet there are also persons who are not exactly in the position of Mahatma, but who worship Krishna also in different ways. Some of them have already been described as the dispersed, the financially destitute, the inquisitive, and those who are engaged in the cultivation of knowledge. But there are others who are still lower, and these are divided into three. He who worships himself as one with the Supreme Lord, he who concocts some form of the Supreme Lord and worships that, and he who accepts the universal form, the Vishwarupa of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and worships that. Out of the above three, the lowest, those who worship themselves as the Supreme Lord, thinking themselves to be monists, are most predominant. Such people think themselves to be the Supreme Lord, and in this mentality, they worship themselves. This is also a type of God worship, who they can understand that they are not the material body, but are actually a spiritual soul. At least such a sense is prominent. Generally, the impersonalists worship the Supreme Lord in this way. The second clause includes the worshippers of the demigod, those who by imagination consider any form to be the form of the Supreme Lord. And the third clause includes those who cannot conceive of anything beyond the manifestation of this material universe. They consider the universe to be the supreme organism or entity and worship that. The universe is also a form of the Lord. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Dandavad Prabhu.
So here then three types of jnanis are being spoken about. Ekatvena, Patatvena, Bhuda, Vishnutomkham. Right? Three types of jnanis. So Krishna spoke about the impersonalists, Krishna spoke about the pure devotees, and now Krishna is speaking about the jnanis. Three types of jnanis. Right? We'll discuss more in detail about them in the coming chapters. Who are these three types of jnanis? In this table, you get an idea of the five types of worshippers mentioned here so far. Who are they? First is Mahatma, pure devotee of Krishna, as mentioned in verse 13 and 14 of chapter 9. Then there are mixed devotees of Krishna, Sukritinaha, Chaturvida Bhajanto Mam. Four types of people worship him or approach him, and they are mixed devotees. But both of them, Mahatmas and Sukritinas, are believers in one God, one Supreme Lord. So they are known as monotheistic. That worship is direct. And then three types of worshippers are mentioned who indirectly worship Krishna. They are jnanis, Vishwatomukham, Prithakvena, and Ekatvena. What is Vishwatomukham? Worshipping the universal form of the Lord, known as Vishwarup Upasana. And that's technically known as pantheism. Then there is worship of demigods or Bahu Ishwarvadi, many gods. So that's called polytheism, pratikopasana, that is prithakvena. And there is ekatvena, which is impersonalism or Brahman worship, as given in verse 11 and 12 of this chapter, and will be explained in 12th chapter, also known as ahangaropasana, and that's called monism, right? So in Gita, all these different kinds of worshippers are explained. Okay. There's this order. Who is the highest? Mahatma is the highest. Next, who is the next category in devotion or in worship? A mixed devotee. Then, worshipper of the universal form. And then after that, demigod worshipper. And then finally, impersonalist. So this is the order. So worship of universal form, we'll quickly go through these verses. Not much to explain in them. We'll only quickly read through. Aham kraturaham yajnah, swadaham aham aushadam, mantroham aham evajyam, aham agnir aham hutam. But it is I who am the ritual, I the sacrifice, the offering to the ancestors, the healing herb, the transcendental chant, I am the butter and the fire and the offering. So this is the consciousness of those who worship the universal form. They try to see everything in the universe as a manifestation of the supreme energy. So they worship everything. And that's how they see everything. Mm. That's their consciousness, right? So this Krishna is saying, I am everything for them. Pitahamasya jagato mata dhata pitamaha vetyam pavitram omkara riksam yajur evacha. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier, and the syllable Om. I am also the Rig, the Sam, and the Yajur Vedas. Devesh Prabhu, please read the purport.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavad. The entire cosmic manifestations, moving and non-moving, are manifested by different activities of Krishna's energy. In the material existence, we create different relationships with different living entities who are nothing but Krishna's marginal energy. Under the creation of Prakriti, some of them appear as a father, mother, grandfather, creator, etc. But actually they are parts and parcels of Krishna. As such, these living entities who appear to be a father, mother, etc. are nothing but Krishna. In this word, the word dhata means creator. Not only are father and mother parts and parcels of Krishna, but the creator, grandmother, and grandfather, etc. are also Krishna. Actually, any living entity being part and parcel of Krishna is Krishna. All the Vedas, therefore, aim only towards Krishna. Whether we want to know through the Vedas is but a progressive step towards understanding Krishna. That subject matter which helps us purify our constitutional position is especially Krishna. Similarly, the living entity who is inquisitive to understand all Vedic principles is also part and parcel of Krishna, and as such is also Krishna. In all the Vedic mantras, the word Om, called Pranava, is a transcendental sound vibration and is also Krishna. And because in all the hymns of the four Vedas, Sama, Yajur, Rig, and Atharva, the Prana or Omkara is very prominent. It is understood to be Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Gatir Bharata Prabhu Sakshi Nivasah Sharanam Suhit Prabhavah Pralayasthanam Nidhanam Bijamapyam. I am the goal, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, the most dear friend. I am the creation, the annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place, and the eternal seed. Right? The way Krishna explains here, we should know that this is not the limit of it. Krishna can go on explaining how someone who worships the universal form sees the things. But he's just giving us, that idea that this is how that person sees. I am everything. That's the pantheistic view. Let's read the purport. Iron Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. Gati means the destination where we want to go, but the ultimate goal is Krishna, although people do not know it. One who does not know Krishna is misled, and his so-called progressive march is either partial or hallucinatory. There are many who make as their destination different demigods, and by rigid performance of the strict respective methods, they reach different planets known as Chandraloka, Suryaloka, Indraloka, Maharloka, etc. But all such lokas or planets, being creations of Krishna, are simultaneously Krishna and not Krishna. Such planets, being manifestations of Krishna's energy, are also Krishna, but actually they serve only as a step forward for realization of Krishna. To approach the different energies of Krishna is to approach Krishna indirectly. One should directly approach Krishna, for that will save time and energy. For example, if there is a possibility of going to the top of a building by the help of an elevator, why should one go by the staircase step by step? Everything is resting on Krishna's energy. Therefore, without Krishna's shelter, nothing can exist. Krishna is the supreme ruler because everything belongs to him and everything exists on his energy. Krishna being situated in everyone's heart is the supreme witness. The residences, countries or planets on which we live are also Krishna. Krishna is the ultimate goal of shelter, and therefore one should take shelter of Krishna either for protection or for annihilation of his distress. And whenever we have to take protection, we should know that our protection must be a living force. Krishna is a supreme living entity, and since Krishna is the source of our generation or the Supreme Father, no one can be a better friend than Krishna, nor can anyone be a better well wisher. Krishna is the original source of creation and the ultimate rest after annihilation. Krishna is therefore the eternal cause of all causes. Thank you, Prabhuji.
तपाम्यहम् अहं वर्षं निगृह्णामि उत्सृजामि च अमृतं चैव मृत्युश्च सद् असच्चाहम् Arjuna. For Arjuna, I give heat and I withhold and I send forth the rain. I am immortality and I am also death personified. Both spirit and matter are in me. Purport. Pavani Mataji.
Hare Krishna Dandavad Pranam Prabhu. Purport by Devendra Shila Prabhupada, Jai Shila Prabhupada. Krishna, by different energies, diffuses heat and light through the agency of electricity and the sun. During the summer season, it is Krishna who checks rain from falling from the sky, and then during the rainy season, he gives unceasing torrents of rain. The energy which sustains us by prolonging the duration of our life is Krishna, and Krishna meets us at the end as death. By analyzing all these different energies of Krishna, one can ascertain that for Krishna there is no distinction between matter and spirit, or in other words, he is both matter and spirit. In the advanced stage of Krishna consciousness, one therefore makes no such distinctions. He sees only Krishna in everything. Since Krishna is both matter and spirit, the gigantic universal form comprising all material manifestations is also Krishna. And his pastimes in Vrindavana as two-handed Shamasundara playing on a flute are those of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Hare Krishna. Any questions so far? Before we go to the next section, which talks about demigod worship. Verse 20 to 25 is demigod worship. But before we go there, if something is there. Yes, Parangati Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Pranam. So, Prabhuji, we are saying it is pantheism to see Krishna everywhere or everything as Krishna. Would we also hear verses where it is said that pure devotees see everything in Krishna and Krishna everywhere and everything is Krishna? Right. So how these two are different?
Thank you, Prabhu. Good question. So in pantheism, they don't see Krishna everywhere. They don't see Krishna everywhere. Their understanding is this universe is the Lord, or this universe is the Supreme Absolute. And everything in the universe is the Supreme Absolute. Whereas a pure devotee is seeing Krishna as a person everywhere, or seeing everything as an energy of Krishna. So here, because Prabhupada, again, Bhakti-vedanta purport, it's Prabhupada who is making even the vision of a universal form worshipper, synonymous to the vision of a devotee of Krishna. Therefore, he's saying, Krishna is this, Krishna is that, Krishna is this, Krishna is that. But however, a pantheistic view person will not see Krishna, will see, okay, this universe, this is the absolute truth. That person doesn't even know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead or Krishna is a person. That person may not have that understanding at all. Right? So that's the difference.
Prabhuji, if we have such people around us, what is that one verse or how do we convince such people?
We don't have such people around us. It's very difficult to find such people actually. And those who are, those who say we are like that, they are not really like that. Because to worship the universal form of the Lord, or to see everything as the supreme, it requires a different type of consciousness, and such people really exist in this era.
Okay, let me put it in another way. Those who claim to be like this, they are not like this, we know, but they claim.
So what do you want to do with them? I mean,
How do we convince them of the personalist view?
you can, it all depends on what basis is that person accepting such a view. If that person believes in Shastra, then you quote the Shastra. That universal form is coming from whom? It's coming from Krishna. Krishna is the source of that universal form, right? So it all depends on what will that person accept. Will that person accept pure logic? Will that person accept Shastra? So you explain from then that perspective. If that person will accept pure logic, then we can say, well, everything has a source. So if you say this universe is absolute, who is controlling this universe? There has to be some person behind the universe, no? If you say this universe is the complete energy, then there has to be an energetic behind the universe, right? So first of all, we need to let them talk. What is their whole understanding? And then we can find flaws in that understanding and then explain how Krishna, accepting Krishna as a supreme person, is a more logical, more authentic, more complete understanding. Fine.
Thank you.
How to understand that we should not only respect the deities, but every person with the same eye. When you see that everything is coming from the Supreme Lord, you respect everything and everyone, not just the deities. Of course, the amount of respect is not the same, but then that attitude of respect is there. Fine. Any other question?
Prabhuji, as it was stated in Bhagavad-gita 9.13, that pure devotees are not even attracted to four-armed Mahavishnu. So it is wrong to get attracted from the form of Vishnu or Narsimha.
It's not wrong. It's here Prabhupada is again um purely emphasizing on the Gaudiya mood, the Gaudiya, approach. The Gaudiyas, they are attracted to two-armed form of Lord Krishna. That's why that's the standard of purity we follow, you know. But then someone may not be attracted to that form of Lord, may be attracted to Narsingha or Varaha or Vishnu. But that's also okay if they are in that sampradaya or that devotional service path. However, when we talk about supremely pure devotional service, as is taught by Gaudiya Vaishnavas, then they are only attracted to the Shams in the form of Krishna, the form of Krishna. Fine. We should know that when we are reading a commentary of an acharya belonging to a certain school or a sampradaya, that personal taste will always be there in the explanation. No. That personal taste will always be there. So when it said that's the purest because that's what we aspire for. So that's the purest. That's the highest for us. Now, if you read a commentary of a Sri Vaishnavacharya, then that Sri Vaishnavacharya will say, worshipping the four-handed form of Lord Vishnu is the purest form of worship. Because that's what they aspire for. Right? You understand? So that is one thing, like personal mood. And the other thing is ontologically understanding. Okay, Vishnu is coming from Krishna, and then Krishna has Aishwarya aspect, and Krishna has Madhurya aspect, and the Madhurya aspect of Krishna is more, uh, original in that sense, completely full of all the rasas. So in that way, that worship is the purest worship. Okay. But we can't say, those who are worshipping Lord Vishnu, they are not pure devotees of Krishna. Nothing like that. They are also pure devotees of Krishna. Okay. Any other question?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Just
Hmm.
one more question regarding. So we hear in Bhagavad-gita and even in Mahabharata many places, it said uh, three uh, three
Three Veda.
Vedas, three Vedas,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But we hear popularly it's known that there are four Vedas,
Four Vedas.
but we don't hear about that in Bhagavatam, Bhagavad-gita, or Mahabharata. So
Yes.
is
So some people
Atharvaveda
say that
really included?
fourth Veda is, some people say fourth Veda did not really exist, or fourth Veda was later on added, right? There were only originally three Vedas, and then the fourth Veda was an addition by humans or whatever. There are so many other such points. But it's not so. Actually, by three Vedas I mentioned in some places, and not the fourth Veda, because the fourth Veda, Atharva Veda, is is very different in its subject. How it's different? Rig, Yajur, and Sam, they are closely connected to worship of demigods. Like they have the way, the process to perform a yajna, the prayers, the hymns to be chanted during the yajna, and all that. And Atharva Ved is having knowledge of secondary importance. No. How secondary? Like, for example, how to make the yajna kund. That kind of supplementary knowledge is given in the Atharva Veda. Therefore, sometimes, because it is supplementary, it is additional, it's not mentioned, as the main subject is dealt in the other three Vedas, Rig, Yajur, and Sam. But it doesn't mean that the fourth did not exist or the fourth was later on added. Right. So therefore, Traivedya, three Vedas, that knowledge is mentioned. That is there. Rig, Yajur, and Sam, they are.
The annexures are there in the Atharvaveda.
Yeah, you can say extra. Like, you write an appendix to the book. So extra information is there. But the main actual information is given in the other three Vedas. Therefore, it's mentioned like that. Mega Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, this is hand raising for reading only, not I don't know about.
Any other question? Vishakha Mataji.
Yeah, Prabhu, that was for reading.
Yeah.
Reading, yeah.
So we move on then. Next verse, talking about demigod worship. So 20 to 25 talks about demigod worship. Verse number 20. त्रैविद्यामां सोमपापूतपापा यज्ञरिष्ट्वा स्वर्गतिं प्रार्थयन्ते ते पुण्यमासाद्य सुरेन्द्रलोकम् अश्नन्ति दिव्यान् दिवि देव भोगान्. Those who study the Vedas and drink the Soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. Purified of sinful reactions, they take birth on the pious heavenly planet of Indra, where they enjoy godly delights. Vishakha Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu. The word Traividya refers to the three Vedas, Sama, Yajur, and Rig. A Brahmin who has studied these three Vedas is called a Trivedi. Anyone who is very much attached to knowledge derived from these three Vedas is respected in society. Unfortunately, there are many great scholars of the Vedas who do not know the ultimate purport of studying them. Therefore, Krishna herein declares himself to be the ultimate goal for the Trivedis. Actually, Trivedis take shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna and engage in pure devotional service to satisfy the Lord. Devotional service begins with the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra and side by side trying to understand Krishna in truth. Unfortunately, those who are simply official students of the Vedas become more interested in offering sacrifices to the different demigods like Indra and Chandra. By such endeavor, the worshippers of different demigods are certainly purified of the contamination of the lower qualities of nature and are thereby elevated to the higher planetary systems or heavenly planets known as Maharlok, Janalok, Taplok, etc. Once situated on those higher planetary systems, one can satisfy his senses hundreds of thousands of times better than on this planet.
Thank you. Next verse, 21. Te tang bhuktva svargalokam vishalam shune punye martyalokam vishanti evam dharmam anuprapanna gatagatam kama kama labhante. When they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. Mega Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Purport: one who is promoted to higher planetary system enjoy a longer duration of life and better facilities for sense enjoyment. Yet one is not allowed to stay there forever. One is again sent back to this earth upon finishing the resultant fruits of pious activities. He who has not attained perfection of knowledge, as indicated in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadi Asya Yatah, or in the other words, he who fails to understand Krishna, the cause of all causes, becomes baffled about achieving the ultimate goal of life and is thus subjected to the routine of being promoted to the higher planets and then again coming down, as if situated on a Ferris wheel, which sometimes goes up and sometimes comes down. The purport is that instead of being elevated to the spiritual world from which there is no longer any possibility of coming down, one simply revolves in the cycle of birth and death on higher and lower planetary system. One should better take to spiritual world to enjoy an eternal life full of bliss and knowledge and never return to this miserable material existence. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you. So, here it is explained that those who are inclined to do pious activities to go to heaven, they go there, they spend some time, and they come back down to planet Earth. You might be thinking, you do it once, you do it twice, and then you get frustrated, and you won't want to do it again. But please try to understand that all the living entities who are in this material world, they are carrying some sanskars very strongly in them. I know. So, impressions. And some people have a strong addiction of going to heaven because they have already been there and had a good time. And then they came back to earth and still they want to go there again. Just like, a small child is taken to a fun park by the parents. And then the child is given a chance to go for a roller coaster ride or a fun ride. So they buy the ticket, make the payment, buy the ticket, and send the child for a ride, which is a 30-minute or 45-minute show. And then the child has fun for 45 minutes, comes down, and then tells the father, buy me another ticket. I want to go again. And the father says, next time. So child is always then reminding the father, Next week, we go again. Again, we go for a roller coaster ride. Why? Because that thrill is there, I've had a good time there. So similarly, if someone has gone to heaven, spend some time there, come back to earth, that sanskar is there in the mind. Oh, I had good time in heaven. Now this again, human birth I've gotten. Let me try again to go to heaven. So that's the nature of this material world. You can become obsessed of any type of material enjoyment, right? And going to heaven can also become an obsession. So such people are there. They keep on just going up and coming down, going up and coming down, going up and coming down. For them, that's the goal of life. Get a human birth, go to heaven. Come back down, again go to heaven. Come back down, again go to heaven.
But Prabhuji, this is only by way of unmanifested vasanas is them, because they will not be remembering they had been to Swarglok earlier. It is only
Yeah, they
because of
won't remember
okay.
exactly, but then that inclination will be, pravritti will be there because of that hidden, as you said, vasana, sanskars.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So that drive will be there. Hidden drive. And they'll get attracted to the concept of going to heaven. Now Krishna talks about then pure devotional service, comparing it to or contrasting it with the worship of demigods. Ananya chintayanto mam ye janah paripasate teshang nityabhiyuktanang yogashemang vahamyaham. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have.
One who is unable to live for a moment without Krishna consciousness cannot but think of Krishna 24 hours a day, being engaged in devotional service by hearing, chanting, remembering, offering prayers, worshipping, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, rendering other services, cultivating friendship, and surrendering fully to the Lord. Such activities are all auspicious and full of spiritual potencies, which make the devotee perfect in self realization, so that his only desire is to achieve the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a devotee undoubtedly approaches the Lord without difficulty. This is called yoga. By the mercy of the Lord, such a devotee never comes back to this material condition of life. Kema refers to the merciful protection of the Lord. The Lord helps the devotee to achieve Krishna consciousness by yoga. And when he becomes fully Krishna conscious, the Lord protects him from falling down to a miserable conditioned life.
Yes. So this is a very famous verse signifying Krishna's special care for his pure devotees. He protects what they have and he provides what they lack. There are numerous stories in the scriptures how Krishna has personally demonstrated this for his various pure devotees. He personally carried to them what they need or what they want, right? And he protects what they have. So many stories.
This shloka is meant for the pure devotees. So what
Yeah.
will be the kind of thing they are lacking and Krishna gives them further? They are already pure devotees, no? So they will be having everything, anything left which the Krishna gives them to the pure devotees.
Yes, thank you. So here, when Krishna says, I preserve what they have and I provide what they lack, Krishna is talking about many practical things also, which you might need for serving Krishna. Krishna will provide. Like Shil Prabhupada, he is a pure devotee of Krishna, but he had a mission, an international mission to spread Krishna consciousness. To spread that mission, he needed manpower, money power. Who provided all that to him? Krishna provided that to him.
Okay, understood. Anything needed to continue to practice the pure devotees serving Krishna in a better way always.
Anything needed to serve Krishna, anything even needed for personal use, whatever, personal maintenance, that also Krishna will provide. Right? personally provide and protect. Krishna will do that for pure devotees. And we have so many stories. The story of Arjuna Acharya, the story of Purushottam Dev, where Lord Jagannath personally came and fought for him, and as Krishna and Balaram, and got him victory over the king of Kanchi. So many tapasyams are there. That for pure devotee, Krishna personally takes the pain to come and help them. Right? Now, what is the most important thing that Krishna should protect for his devotees?
His faith,
Devotion,
A
worldliness.
devotee's faith, a devotee's devotion, a devotee's surrender, a devotee's consciousness. It's all that Krishna should protect. Not necessarily Krishna will protect the body or the wealth or the property or the good name. Not necessarily. But Krishna will protect the devotion, the consciousness, the faith. Isn't it? That's what Krishna will protect. Sometimes, therefore, a devotee may also have accident, may have serious physical illness, memory loss. So many things can happen on material platform to a devotee. And we should not think that Krishna is not helping them or protecting them or being merciful upon them. That's not the truth. Isn't it? Like an example is here, a good example to reflect upon. Example of His Grace, Aindra Prabhu, Prabhupada disciple. So he left his body in an accident. There was a gas cylinder explosion in his room. And he left his body in that way. We know about him, his past, also the way he lived his life in Krishna consciousness. Extremely, extremely dedicated and pure. Some short, points about him. He was born in a family of musicians in the year 1953, initiated by Prabhupada in 73. Would go out on streets in New York to do Harinam for 8 to 12 hours daily. Started 24-hour Kirtan in Vrindavan in 86, personally chanting for 16 to 18 hours daily. But he left his body in a fire accident. And what was his, level of worship? So many Shaligram Shilas, so many deities, personally taking care of them every day, right? Chanting hundreds of rounds every day, not taking even a drip of water before he completed his daily quota of japa, daily worship, and extraordinary level of sadhana. But he died in a fire accident, right? So, what is Krishna's protection here? And you can just even feel from the, picture of his room. This is a picture of his room. You can feel that spiritual, that vibration coming from the picture itself, the mood that has been created, the ambience, the consciousness of worship, of devotion, right? And he left his body in a fire accident. So Krishna protects the consciousness. That's the most important, the faith. That's Krishna's protection for a devotee, not necessarily a material thing. Let's read this slide. Amrita Vilasan.
Prabhu, next purpose?
No, the slide. See the slide? On...
No.
You don't see the slide?
No.
No one
Yes,
else?
it's visible.
I can see.
We can see,
One
Prabhuji.
who can see can read.
We can see. Can I
So
read?
Yeah, read.
So for
One of-
persons who are completely in Krishna consciousness, there is no scarcity. This is very encouraging. No Krishna conscious should think, I will be in scarcity. I will be in want. No. Rest assured that you will never be in want. If you keep your full faith in Krishna, you will always live happily and will be given the chance of chanting Hare Krishna. If you take this advantage of chanting Hare Krishna, and whatever position you may be in, you will never be unhappy. You will always be prosperous. So why don't you take advantage of this? Just try it. Make an experiment. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, we stop here. Any question? Any last question? Continue in the next class tomorrow and complete the chapter tomorrow. I hope all of you have seen the schedule I posted in the group. So the month of August gets over, and in the month of September, you will have your exam for Unit 2, right? Any question? Unit 2 for some, Unit 5 for some. No question.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, may I ask you one
Hare
question?
Krishna, it's not a issue.
Yes. In text 13, it says that Krishna is telling that the one who came to him become freed from the control of material nature. But we don't see this.
What we don't see?
That one who, as if one who come to Krishna consciousness, he become once freed from the control of material nature.
Yeah, so it will take time. As they become more and more pure, they will become free from the modes of three modes material nature. Not immediately, as soon as they come to Krishna consciousness. As they get purified, and then they become completely pure devotees of Krishna, then they will become transcendental to the three modes. But that takes time. That's not immediately.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? All right, so stop here. See you tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Shri Prabhupada.